So you've come this far, let's cover the last section about Caesar. The thing with Caesar was that he had pardoned almost all of his enemies, creating a fair bit of goodwill around the matter. Though that goodwill was slightly tempered by his fifth triumph for ending the Civil War. Most found it to be in poor taste, as were Roman legions that were slaughtered, not random barbarians. Though it is important to note that in September of 45 BC, Caesar updated his will as the previous one was nearing a decade old, and willed that much of his estate would pass to son-in-law Pompey and Julia. So, yeah, not going to happen. The most important part that was appended to the document was that Augustus Octavius, the grandson of his elder sister, Julia Aetius Balbus, her daughter Ada Balba married Gaius Octavius and had Octavia the Younger, Mark Antony's fourth wife, and Augustus Octavian, referred to by historians as Octavian for convenience sake. The will also stipulated that should Octavian refuse or perish before Caesar, Brutus Albinius would be his heir. It also stated that a gift of coinage was to be made to Rome upon his death. I'll cover the rest in time, but I feel I need to add this here. The will made no mention of Caesarion nor any bastards that Caesar had sired. Why is not certain, but a good reason I heard was if he legitimized Caesarion, it would be akin to annexing Egypt, as he was Cleopatra's only child at the time. Meaning that any lands held by Caesar would go to Caesarion, and this new Roman citizen would also be the pharaoh of Egypt. It might also seem like Caesar was trying to start up a dynasty, which he very well could have been, but that's not the point. Caesar also had a new constitution put in once to ensure stability to the republic. It was meant to limit armed resistance in the provinces, strengthen the government, and force the provinces to act as a part of Rome instead of several semi-independent countries that were loyal to Rome. The Pompeian defeat finished the first goal. Now was a consolidation of power at the expense of the other political institutions. He passed several laws, such as the sumptuary law, which limited the purchase of luxury items, as well as a census was designated to limit the strain on the granary. This was a part of the Bread and Circuses Act, where Romans were given grains and entertainment to keep them from going insane and smashing everything. He made it so only equestrians or senators could serve as jurors, and passed a large family reward, meaning that families that had the required or more children could receive the reward. This was to increase the population to recover from the Civil War. He built the Forum of Caesar with the Temple of Venus Genetrix within. Venus was the mother of the Romans, but more importantly, the matriarch of the Caesar family. Regulated the state purchase of grain for the Bread and Circuses Act, and made arrangements for land allotments for his 15,000 veterans. The largest change was the calendar reform, changing from the traditional Roman lunar calendar to the more accurate Egyptian solar calendar, setting the table for a 365.25 day year and leap day every 4th February. This is surprisingly close to the actual duration of the year, 365.2422 days. A slight issue though. The two calendars are extremely out of sync, and this needed to be corrected. In 46 BC, the Annus Confusionis, the year of confusion, began. 3 intercalary months were added after February to straighten out the days. I'm sure you're wondering about the festivals that were held at the same time every year, but Caesar ensured everyone that they weren't going to change. October festivals would still be in October, but they would technically be 3 months later, as to account for the temporary months added. This resulted in the year 46 BCE having 445 days, with 45 BCE being the first year to use a new calendar system. Aside from political reforms, he also championed infrastructure and developmental policies. Carthage and Corinth, two ancient cities with prestige nearing that of Rome, lie in ruins for years. Caesar ordered them to be rebuilt and reduced the need for Roman intermediaries in civil tax collection, leaving it up to the city. The Temple of Mars, a theater, and a library rivaling the former Library of Alexandria were planned. Ostia was planned to be converted into a major port, and a canal was to be dug through the Isthmus of Corinth, the small land bridge connecting it with the mainland. Most importantly, he wasn't content to rest on his laurels, having drawn up plans to fight the Slavic nations of modern-day Romania and the Parthians of Persia to avenge the death of his ally Crassus. This was planned to happen on the 18th of March, 44 BCE, 3 days after the Ides of March. In early 44 BCE, he was named Censor Vitae, so long as he lived. Coins with Caesar's face were minted, and a golden knot throne was placed in the Senate. He was permitted to wear his triumph robes, which were solid purple, at his pleasure, and had the imperial cult around him made, with Antony as its chief priest. This would be used as justification for Caesar's ambition to be a king. The purple robes and golden chairs were common for kings. The purple robes in particular, as the only way to obtain purple, color code 102.2.60, was to process thousands of Tyrian snails, bonus branderies. He also increased the number of magistrates, which diluted their powers but allowed for more experienced magistrates to choose from later. In February 44 BCE, Caesar was bestowed the title of dictator in perpetuum, or for how long he wished. Finally, he passed a law that allowed him to appoint everyone, magistrates, consuls, and tribunes, meaning that they acted on behalf of Caesar and not the people. On the 14th of March, 44 BCE, Caesar's wife Calpurnia is said to have told him of a dream she had that something terrible was to happen to him tomorrow. If though had divine influence or something that was added after, we don't know. Caesar responded by saying that if he listened and refused to attend the Senate meeting tomorrow because his wife had a prophetic dream about him, there would be no way he would be respected. Being afraid of dreams that may not happen. This could be a misunderstanding of who said it, as a seer of the fates also declared that the Ides of March boded poorly for Caesar. Whichever is true, Calpurnia was right. In an undisclosed location, a group calling themselves Liberators planned an attack on Caesar on the Ides of March, the 15th day. Mark Antony was said to have been notified of this by Publius Servilius Cascolangus of this plot. Gaius Trebonius is said to have detained him outside the Senate chamber. Though Plutarch says that it was Brutus Albinus, so it could have been anyone, I guess. I say that Pompey's skeleton teleported to the spot and rattled his bones menacingly. That's almost certainly not what happened, but whatever. What did happen is that when Caesar entered the building, Lucius Julius Cimber distracted him by asking for his brother to be allowed to return. It's debated how Caesar reacted, but Cimber yanked on Caesar's toga, making him cry out, "Why, this is violence!" Casca drew a blade and tried but failed to stab him in the neck. Caesar said, according to Plutarch, "Casca, you villain, what are you doing?" This being likely out of shock and not an honest question. Casca then said in Greek, "Adelphi, both I. Help, brother." According to Eutropius, 60 men surrounded Caesar and stabbed him as he was on the ground, blinded by blood and defenseless. Of the 60 people, Marcus Brutus and Albinius included, only 23 actually partook in the murder. The others were said to cover themselves in blood to be a part of the act of quote-unquote liberation by murdering someone in the Senate. Before he died, Caesar was likely to have said, "Kai Sai, Tinkin," meaning "adieu my child" in Greek when he saw Marcus Brutus. Scholars debate this, as it's kinda hard to say for certain what someone said as they died nearly 2 millennia ago. Of the liberators, however, they marched through Rome, stained with blood, and announced that they were free. Most citizens did what any normal person would do if they saw a group of senators coated in blood announcing that they were free: lock the doors and hide. Which, I mean, fair. If I saw my local official and their political staff with weapons and blood-splattered clothing, I'd probably lock the door too. Call the cops just for good measures. Eventually, things started to calm down. The men, who referred to themselves as liberators, said that they did not kill a man, but a tyrant, a despot, a wannabe king. This somewhat settled down everything, and Rome settled into an uneasy calm. When the time came to read Caesar's will, Mark Antony had it brought before the Senate mere days after the assassination. It is noteworthy that the wax elephant, the seal of legitimacy, was already broken, meaning that Mark Antony already knew a portion of the will's content. I personally throw doubt on the legitimacy of the will, as the seal was broken before it was read at the Senate meeting. If Mark Antony wished, he could have modified or changed what was written. Before it was announced, Mark Antony proposed a compromise: the quote-unquote liberators will be absolved, and in turn, those appointed by Caesar will remain. This brokered a tenuous peace and allowed the will to be read. Much of the content was shocking, as Caesar made it a point to be generous. For each of the roughly 450,000 citizens of the city, Caesar personally willed to them 75 Attic drachmas. This is a large sum of money, as a skilled laborer can make a drachma after a day's work, and Caesar just gave away 33.75 million days' wages to the city's citizens. He also willed that many of his personal gardens and orchards be converted into public parks. Most potent of all was the naming of an heir. Choosing not to legitimize any of his bastards, technically, Caesar named the grandson of his elder sister, his primary heir, Gaius Octavianus, known to history as Augustus Caesar or simply Octavian. Should he not accept, Decimus Junius Brutus Albinus would be named as his heir. The same Brutus Albinus that liberated Rome from Caesar's grasp. By accepting, Gaius Octavius could bear the name Gaius Julius Caesar Octavianus Ernest. For his funeral, Caesar asked that he be cremated and laid to rest next to his daughter. Mark Antony declared that they should break customs and hold his funeral within the city limits. This received a large pushback, but was allowed to happen as the liberators were in a tenuous position. The body of Caesar was brought before the people and set up on a wooden stage. At the head of the stage, Antony spoke. As told by the eternal bard, William Shakespeare, from his play Julius Caesar Act 3 Scene 2, he said, quote, "Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The evil that men do lives after them. The good is oft interred with their bones. So let it be with Caesar. The noble Brutus hath told you Caesar was ambitious. If it were so, it was a grievous fault. And grievously hath Caesar answered it. Here, under leave of Brutus and the rest. For Brutus is an honorable man. So are they all honorable men. Come I to speak in Caesar's funeral. He was my friend, faithful and just to me. But Brutus says he was ambitious. And Brutus is an honorable man. He hath brought many captives home to Rome. Whose ransoms did the general coffers fill. Did this in Caesar seem ambitious? When that the poor have cried, Caesar hath wept. Ambition should be made of sterner stuff. Yet Brutus says he was ambitious. And Brutus is an honorable man. You all did see that on the Lupercal. I thrice presented him a kingly crown. Which he did thrice refuse. Was this ambition? Yet Brutus says he was ambitious. And, sure, he is an honorable man. I speak not to disprove what Brutus spoke. But here I am to speak what I do know. You all did love him once, not without cause. What cause withholds you then, to mourn for him? O judgment! Thou art fled to brutish beasts. And men have lost their reason. Bear with me. My heart is in the coffin there with Caesar. And I must pause till it come back to me." Unquote. Antony stopped several times to gesture to Caesar, allowing emotions to stir. While Shakespeare's writing on the incident may not be entirely accurate, the sentiment was the same. The people were told that a vile man had died, yet standing before them was a friend of said vile man, recounting all the good he did. This was followed by the oration of Caesar's final will, a will in which he declared that Rome itself would be one of his heirs, with Gaius Octavius being his primary heir and Brutus Albinus, their liberator, and tyrant slayer, being your secondary heir. To say that an uproar began would be to say fire was hot or the sun was bright. Caesar was the champion of the people. Everything he did was to better the lives of Rome and its people. He fought for them, bled for them, died for them. So what if he was a king if it made the lives of the people better? The senators and aristocrats saw him as a threat and had him killed. Tensions reached their breaking point and the people stormed the stage and took the body of Caesar. The wooden structure was dismantled and Caesar was placed in the center, turning the forum into the dictator's funerary pyre. That was not enough. Nearby buildings were stripped down and added to the fire. Gold and jewelry, fabrics, clothes, and accessories that they found were added to the pyre. The lictors needed to step in and prevent the situation from further devolving. Yet the die was cast. The public had turned on the liberators as they had killed their beloved Caesar for their own goals. Mark Antony seized the situation and declared the second triumvirate with Lepidus and Octavius. They fought the liberators for the good of Rome. Marcus Brutus, Brutus Albinus, and many others joined together against the three men. Of those opposing them was one man by the name of Sextus Pompeius Pius, the son of Pompey who took control of Sicily. The second triumvirate was officially and legally known as the Triumvirate for organizing the Republic. It gave each man absolute command over sections of the Republic territory. So in the process of defending the Republic, the liberators dealt its final blow. This post-Caesarian civil war saw the Republican forces raise 45 legions, nearly 240,000 men to defeat the liberators' forces. To fund this, the triumvirate enacted a prescription, the seizure of land and wealth of anyone who was an issue. Of these victims, Cicero stood in staunch opposition. He decried the issuing of the proscription, having seen what happened to Rome when Sulla issued the same decades prior. Yet he did not run nor hide. He knew that his time drew near and accepted it. To try and state the impact that Cicero had on history would be to try to count the drops of water in the ocean. He left a mark on history that eclipsed most families. Of them, the works De Republica and De Legibus stand out as some of his most significant works. On the 7th of December, 43 BCE, the last defender of the Republic was beheaded by order of Mark Antony. What followed was a civil war with Gaius Julius Caesar against Pompeius Magnus. Sound familiar? That is a story for another time. If you want me to cover Imperator Augustus Caesar, let me know. With hindsight, it's clear to see that Caesar was becoming too powerful, and thus, a threat. But that's always the case with hindsight. It allows us to see what was not obvious to the people back then. To the Senate and the elite of Rome, Caesar was a despot that would lead to the end of the Republic. They were right about Julius Caesar, but chose the wrong one. The public had a differing view. For his men, Caesar granted them land, property, a source of income. He gave large donations of coins to them. For the citizens, he gave rights to thousands of settlements on the fringes of Roman society, built large public works, and increased the standards of living for many areas. This diametrically opposed view has led to the muddled view on the man in legend. He was the man who set the groundwork for the Roman Empire, but he was also the man who was beloved by the Romans and changed much of society, one way or another. Most of the information was taken from writings by Caesar, accounts according to Suetonius, Plutarch, and many other lesser sources. If a source is closer to the date, then it is likely that the information is more credible compared to something written decades or centuries after. William Shakespeare's account of Caesar would hold less water compared to Suetonius's writings decades around the time. But what do you think? Was Gaius Julius Caesar a tyrant who was trying to be a king, or was he a righteous man that bettered Rome and was killed for being too powerful, having committed crimes in doing so? I've been the Irish Explainer, and this has been a brief history on Caesar from 45 to 44 BCE. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to place them in the comments below. Let me know what I should cover next. Have a great day and make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.